Hey, everybody, and welcome to NFL Nexus. With the NFL draft right around the corner, things are really starting to heat up. Every team is scrambling, making those last-minute adjustments. But today, we're going to do a real deep dive on one team in particular, the Indianapolis Colts. Because what they're doing right now, it's fascinating. It's almost unconventional. This is a story about a team with some massive needs, not a lot of premium picks, and a hunt for talent that's taking them to some very unexpected places. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at the big picture, the overall state of the Colts roster. Then we'll narrow our focus to their single biggest, most glaring problem. From there, we'll get into the fun stuff, how their scouting is leading them down two completely different roads to find a solution. And it's all going to build up to a look at one very specific player who most of you have probably never even heard of. Finally, we'll tie it all together and figure out what this all means. All right, let's set the stage here. To really understand why the Colts are looking where they're looking, you first have to get a feel for the immense pressure they're under. This isn't a team looking for that one last luxury piece to put them over the top for a Super Bowl. Nope. This is more like a team that's trying to patch some pretty serious holes in the side of the ship before it sets sail. So the Colts are caught in this classic bind. It's a squeeze. They have these really significant, urgent needs at multiple starting positions, but, and here's the kicker, they just don't have the draft capital to easily go out and fix them all with top-tier talent. And that scarcity, that lack of ammo, that's the engine driving their entire pre-draft strategy. It forces them to get creative. And look at the sheer breadth of this problem. This isn't just one position group. We are talking about foundational, cornerstone positions on both sides of the football. They need an edge rusher who can get after the opposing quarterback and disrupt the play. They need a linebacker to be the quarterback of their defense. They need a safety to patrol the back end. And, as we're really going to dive into in a second, they are absolutely desperate for a pass catcher. And here it is. This number right here is the heart of the entire dilemma. 4, maybe more, major needs, and only 2 picks in the top 100. I mean, you can do the math yourself. It just doesn't add up if you're planning on shopping for premium players. General Manager Chris Ballard simply cannot fill all those holes on day 1 and day 2 of the draft. It's impossible, and that reality is what forces a team to start thinking outside the box. Okay, so we've got all these roster issues swirling around, but now let's zero in on the most critical, the most acute problem of them all, the one that directly impacts their young quarterback Anthony Richardson, and really the entire identity of their offense moving forward. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? When they traded their number 1 wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., to the Steelers, that wasn't just some minor roster adjustment. No way. That was a seismic shift for this offense. It essentially ripped their top target, their safety blanket, right out of the passing game, and it left behind this massive gaping void that they absolutely have to fill before the season starts. And this right here, this just lays the consequence of that trade out bare. It's pretty stark when you see it like this. You go from having a proven, reliable number 1 receiver in Pittman to a room where all of a sudden Alec Pierce is your top outside guy. He's backed up by Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Now, no disrespect to those guys, but that is a significant drop-off in proven high-level production. It puts an enormous amount of pressure on the front office to bring in not just another body for depth, but a potential day 1 starter. So what do? You have this huge need at wide receiver. You've got limited draft picks to work with. How are the Colts actually responding? Well, if you look at their pre-draft activity and specifically who they're using their valuable top 30 visits on, it reveals a very clear and very broad strategy. They are leaving no stone unturned. Now this is what I find so fascinating. On one hand, you've got them bringing in a guy like Chris Brazel. He played at Tennessee, in the SEC. He proved himself week in and week out against the highest level of college competition there is. Makes perfect sense. But then, on the other hand, they're using another one of their precious pre-draft visits on a guy named Kyle Dixon from Culver Stockton College, an NAIA school. The fact that they are actively scouting the absolute opposite ends of the college football universe, that tells you everything you need to know. They are willing to look for answers literally anywhere. And this is where we really get into the weeds, because the intense focus the Colts are showing Kyle Dixon, it reveals so much about their current thinking. This isn't just some fun, feel-good, local kid makes good story. No, this is a strategic, calculated evaluation that is being driven by pure necessity. As ESPN's Stephen Holder points out here, the Colts are not alone in this. This is key. The fact that Dixon has had virtual meetings with over half the league, that tells you this is not just some random flyer. There's legitimate, widespread NFL interest in this kid. So this isn't just the Colts doing some extra due diligence. This is them actively trying to get ahead of the curve on a player that the rest of the league is clearly starting to discover.
Now, hang on. Before we get to his absolutely insane athletic numbers, we have to understand the context. What is the NAIA? It's not the NCAA. It's a different governing body, usually for smaller colleges. And the level of competition, well, it's significantly lower. That makes evaluating a player so much trickier. The jump from playing against small schools to lining up opposite an all-pro NFL cornerback, that is one of the biggest leaps in all of sports. It's a huge question mark. But these numbers are precisely why over half the league is calling. Forget the level of competition for just a second and look at this. You've got a receiver who's 6'2", pushing 220 pounds, who runs in the 4.4s. That alone gets you on the radar. But then, a 40.5-inch vertical jump? That's elite. That's top tier. On the field, that means he has an incredible catch radius. That's your red zone threat. That's the guy you throw a jump ball to. And then, a nearly 11-foot broad jump, that is just a pure raw measure of lower body explosiveness. These are, without a doubt, NFL-caliber athletic traits. You can't teach this stuff. So, the good news is that his elite athletic traits weren't just for show at a combine, they translated to complete and utter dominance on the football field. Look at this production. Over his last 2 seasons, he put up almost 2,400 yards and 24 touchdowns. Now, yes, you have to add the asterisk, it was against NAIA competition, but here's the thing, that is exactly what a player with his physical gifts should do at that level. You want to see him dominate, and he absolutely did. And this really brings us to the big picture question, doesn't it? Why would a team spend one of its just 30 valuable pre-draft visits on a player who is, let's be honest, a developmental prospect at best? A guy who is likely a late day 3 pick, or maybe even an undrafted free agent. This is the key question that helps us pivot from just analyzing the player to really understanding the team's entire draft philosophy. This whole deep dive into this one specific player, Kyle Dixon, it's not really about him. It's about what he represents. His story perfectly illustrates the Colts' overarching strategy for this draft. It's a calculated risk, a gamble that was absolutely born out of necessity. A player like Dixon just checks all the boxes for a team in the Colts' specific situation. They know they can't afford to spend a premium first-round pick on a receiver if they also have a desperate need for, say, an edge rusher. So what do? They target elite, raw, athletic traits, the stuff you can't coach. They're looking for a guy who can come in, light a fire under the current players in that receiver room, and maybe, just maybe, develop into something more, all without having to spend a high draft pick to get him. It's all about finding that upside at a low cost. You can literally see their entire process laid out right here. It's so methodical. It's a step-by-step approach. Step 1, whoops, we lost our number 1 receiver. That's a huge problem. Step 2, we check our wallet. We only have 2 top 100 picks. Okay. Step 3, let's look everywhere. SEC, NAIA, it doesn't matter. Step 4, forget the helmet, forget the school. Let's just target the best pure athletes we can find. And finally, step 5. Let's figure out a low-cost way to get those athletes in the building, whether it's a 6th-round pick or as a priority free agent. It's a really pragmatic plan to find value where other teams might not be looking quite so closely. And that's really what it all boils down to. This entire process, from acknowledging the massive hole left for the Pittman trade, all the way to spending a top 30 visit on an NAIA prospect, it is all about one thing: trying to unearth that hidden gem. It's a high upside swing for the fences, it's a bet on athletic traits over college pedigree, and they're just hoping they can find that diamond in the rough who can help solve one of their most glaring problems. And that, my friends, leaves us with the final thought as we head into the draft. I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. Is this strategy genius? Is it a savvy way to exploit market inefficiencies and find talent where other teams aren't even looking? Or is it just a sign of desperation? A team that's being forced into taking these long shot bets because they simply don't have the resources to solve their problems more directly? The answer to that question is going to tell us a whole lot about the future of the Indianapolis Colts. Hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. And one more thing, if you're looking for something fun for the kids, grandkids, or even for yourself, check out the coloring books we've made. The link is in the description, or you can just scan the QR code on your screen now. Thanks for watching.